Venice is located in the center of the Venetian Lagoon, a shallow bay of the Adriatic Sea in northeastern Italy. The city is not a single landmass, but a complex archipelago of 118 small islands, separated by a network of canals and linked by over 400 bridges. The foundation of this city is one of the most remarkable engineering feats in human history. Because the ground of the lagoon was soft mud and sand, builders had to drive millions of wooden piles deep into the harder layers of compressed clay. These piles, made primarily from larch and alder trees brought from the forests of Slovenia and Croatia, do not rot because they are submerged in an oxygen-free environment. Over centuries, the wood has petrified, becoming as hard as stone and providing a stable platform for the heavy marble and brick structures above. The city is divided into 6 administrative districts known as Sestieri: Cannaregio, San Polo, Santa Croce, Dorsoduro, San Marco, and Castello. The Grand Canal, the city's primary waterway, flows in a large S shape through these districts, serving as the main artery for transport. The unique geography of Venice means that it is the world's largest urban pedestrian zone. The absence of cars and the constant presence of water create a unique acoustic environment where the sounds of bells, footsteps, and splashing water are the primary background noises. This reliance on the lagoon has shaped every aspect of Venetian life, from architecture and commerce to the way residents dispose of waste and receive mail. The political history of Venice is defined by its long-standing status as an independent republic, founded by refugees fleeing barbarian invasions after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Venice gradually evolved into a powerful maritime state. For over a millennium, from 697 to 1797, it was known as the Most Serene Republic of Venice, La Serenissima. Unlike the feudal monarchies of mainland Europe, Venice developed a sophisticated republican government. At the head was the Doge, a figurehead elected for life, but his power was strictly limited by various councils, most notably the Great Council and the Council of Ten. Venice's power reached its zenith during the Middle Ages and the early Renaissance. By controlling the trade routes between Europe and the Levant, Venice became the wealthiest city in Europe. It played a pivotal role in the Crusades and established a maritime empire that included parts of present-day Croatia, Greece, and Cyprus. The Venetian navy was the most powerful in the Mediterranean, supported by the Arsenal, a state-owned shipyard that was the first example of mass production in history. The Republic's independence finally came to an end in 1797 when Napoleon Bonaparte conquered the city. It later became part of the Austrian Empire before joining the unified Kingdom of Italy in 1866. The economy of Venice was historically built on its monopoly over the spice and silk trades. Positioned as a gateway between the East and the West, Venice served as the primary marketplace for goods arriving from the Silk Road. Commodities such as pepper, ginger, cinnamon, and saffron were brought by Venetian merchants from ports in Egypt and the Middle East, and then sold at high premiums to the rest of Europe. This trade was not limited to spices. Venice was also a major hub for the trade in salt, grain, slaves, and precious metals. The gold ducat, the currency of Venice, became the international standard for trade, much like the US dollar is today. In addition to trade, Venice was a center of high-end manufacturing. The city was famous for its glass production, which was eventually moved to the island of Murano to prevent fires and protect trade secrets. Venetian glass was prized across the globe for its clarity and artistic complexity. The city also excelled in the production of high-quality textiles, including silk and velvet, and was a pioneer in the early printing industry. By the late 15th century, Venice was the printing capital of the world, producing more books than any other city in Europe. Today, the economy has shifted drastically toward tourism, which accounts for the vast majority of the city's income, though this transition has brought significant social and logistical challenges. Venetian architecture is a unique fusion of styles, reflecting the city's diverse cultural influences. The most characteristic style is Venetian Gothic, which combines the pointed arches of Northern Gothic with Byzantine and Islamic influences from the East. This is best exemplified by the Doge's Palace, with its delicate lace-like stonework and open loggias. Because the ground in Venice is unstable, architects had to prioritize lightness. Venetian palaces, or palazzi, often feature large windows and thin walls to reduce weight, using Istrian stone, a waterproof marble-like limestone, for decorative elements and structural reinforcement at the water level. The city's urban development was strictly regulated by the state to ensure the functionality of the canals and public spaces. The heart of the city is St. Mark's Square, Piazza San Marco, the only space in Venice designated as a piazza. The others are called campi. Surrounding the square are the city's most important religious and political buildings, including St. Mark's Basilica, famous for its over 8,000 square meters of golden mosaics. Over the centuries, the city's skyline was shaped by its campaniles, bell towers, and the massive domes of Baroque churches like Santa Maria della Salute, built as a votive offering after a devastating plague. The residential architecture is equally unique, with many houses featuring a porta d'acqua, water door, for direct access from a boat. Venice has made monumental contributions to the world of art and music. During the High Renaissance, the Venetian school of painting, led by masters such as Titian, Tintoretto, and Veronese, introduced a new emphasis on light and color over the more rigid line-based approach, disegno, favored in Florence and Rome. The damp climate of Venice also led to the widespread adoption of oil on canvas, as traditional frescoes would quickly deteriorate in the salty, humid air. In the 18th century, artists like Canaletto became world famous for their vedute, view paintings, which served as postcards for wealthy travelers on the Grand Tour. The city's musical heritage is equally rich. Venice was the site of the first public opera house and was the home of Antonio Vivaldi, who composed many of his most famous works, including The Four Seasons, while working at the Ospedale della Pietà. The Venice Biennale, established in 1895, remains one of the most prestigious cultural institutions in the world, hosting international exhibitions of contemporary art, architecture, cinema, and dance. The Venice Film Festival, held annually on the Lido, is the oldest film festival in the world. Furthermore, the tradition of the Venice Carnival, with its elaborate masks and costumes, continues to be a major cultural event, drawing visitors from every continent. The city of Venice is part of a much larger ecosystem that includes dozens of other islands, each with its own specific history and function. To the north lies Murano, which has been the center of the world's glass-making industry since 1291. Further out is Burano, famous for its lace-making traditions and its rows of brightly painted houses, which were colored so that fishermen could identify their homes through the thick lagoon fog. Nearby, Torcello, now largely abandoned, was actually settled before Venice and contained some of the oldest Byzantine mosaics in the region. These islands provided the Republic with essential goods and acted as a buffer against the sea. To the south and east, the islands take on different roles. The Lido and Palestrina are long, narrow strips of land that act as natural barriers between the lagoon and the open Adriatic Sea. The Lido became Europe's first modern beach resort in the 19th century and remains a residential and recreational hub today. Other islands served grimmer purposes. Poveglia and Lazaretto Vecchio were used as quarantine stations and plague colonies during the Black Death, while San Michele serves as the city's primary cemetery. The lagoon itself is a delicate, brackish environment where fresh water from alpine rivers meets the salt water of the sea. Maintaining the balance of this ecosystem is vital, as the marshes and mudflats, known as barren, act as natural sponges that help absorb the impact of high tides. Today, Venice faces two major threats: the rising water level and the impact of mass tourism. The phenomenon of acqua alta, high water, occurs when high tides are exacerbated by seasonal winds, causing the lagoon to flood the city. Due to a combination of the city sinking, subsidence, and global sea levels rising, these floods have become more frequent and severe. To combat this, Italy implemented the MOSE project, a system of 78 yellow mobile barriers at the lagoon's 3 inlets. When a high tide is predicted, these barriers rise to block the Adriatic Sea from entering the lagoon. While MOSE has successfully protected the city from several major floods since 2020, its long-term impact on the lagoon's ecology remains a subject of debate. The second challenge is the demographic decline caused by over-tourism. As the city has become a global tourist destination, the cost of property and daily goods has risen sharply, forcing many local residents to move to the mainland, Mestre and Marghera. The population of the historic center has dropped from roughly 175,000 after World War II to under 50,000 today. The city has recently introduced measures to manage tourist flows, including a dynamic entry fee for day trippers and bans on large cruise ships entering the Giudecca Canal. Preserving Venice as a living city rather than a hollow museum remains the primary goal for urban planners and local activists in the 21st century.